All right, hello friends and fellow anti-netters. Welcome back to another edition of taking you through the behind the scenes of building and working with an anti-net Zettelkasten. Basically an analog, physical, haptic, tangible Zettelkasten, aka the Zettelkasten in the type that was used by the inventor of the Zettelkasten system, Niklas Luhmann. Now, here's the deal. In today's video, I was just today, this is the day after Christmas, so I'm sitting here in my office and I'm organizing my book outline, and I've spent a few hours today, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 hours today, organizing the first structural outline of my book on the Antinet Zettelkasten. And I wanted to take you behind the scenes and show you how I actually was able to create this outline. And what I'm going to talk about is a little bit advanced. I've been hopping all over the place if you've watched my videos here to date. And I don't apologize for that. You're going to be able to pick it up, and well, when I release the book on the Antinet, you're going to actually be able to get the full big picture. But I don't want to wait 6 months from now until it's perfectly done. I figure, well, since people are enjoying these videos, I'm gonna start releasing more and more tidbits on the behind the scenes stuff, even if it's not really linear or chronological, on how to install the system or how to use and work with an Antinet Zettelkasten. So today's topic and what I'm going to show you and cover centers around two things. The first one is something called collectives, and we're going to dive into that in just a second. And the second thing I'm going to show you is how I was actually able to use collectives and embody and enact this type of research principle called emergence research or emergent research. Which is allowing your research to organically almost unveil itself. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I used it and how you can essentially embrace and leverage emergent research to build books, build ideas, and let them actually develop organically and harmoniously, instead of trying to come up with an idea and create a framework and a thesis and try to force everything via confirmation bias into that thesis or a framework. Using the method I'm about to share with you, you will allow the book almost to write itself. And it's a lot more fun because as you're doing a ton of reading and research, like here's some of the books that I've read and done research on in writing this book, you have no almost tension or fear in trying to get something to fit into the whatever preconceived notion or idea of what you have. It develops organically. So anyway, let's talk about collectives. So what I'm going to show you right here is an actual collective, a type of note that Niklas Luhmann himself wrote. So what I did is I went to Niklas Luhmann's archive, online archive, and I translated one of his section collective notes, okay? This section collective is his note on ideology. Now, I had it translated via Google Translate into English, and then I wrote it out by hand. So what you are looking at is the output of one of his actual notes. And you'll see in the top left corner that it says ideology, right, in 17. And then there are references. Now, by references, he means these are actual links in his own Antinet to other cards, other note cards and other thoughts. So, he's linking ideology, saying, oh, check out 7, especially 7.9, 7.7, G7, all of those. And then down here, he has a list of other, collectives, essentially, of other items, like ideology and legitimacy, C54.2. Ideology and division of labor, 44.16, 44.5 E. And notice one thing here is, this is an actual mistake. Like Luhmann made a mistake. He didn't erase it, or he just scratched it out and he's fine with it. So that's one thing I want to point out, because in Sankey Arens's book, How to Take Smart Notes, he talks about how Luhmann's cards were almost impeccable and evergreen and organic and permanent in nature. And no, he had different types of cards and different notes. And there was mistakes throughout all of his notes, so it's not some perfect ecosystem. And I think a lot of people get it wrong. Why they just go way too perfectionist mode on your own notes. I mean, you should treat it with, a lot of seriousness and deliberateness in taking notes, but you shouldn't worry about it being picture perfect. So, all right, that's one little thing. So anyway, that is a sample of a Luhmann collective. It's just a collection of links. He also had collections. So here's on like the second card, 17.2, on references. These are like from actual books, like literature references of things that he would read. Okay, so they're collections of items. So let's go back to the collections of links to other notes, okay? So I'm going to show you an example of one of my collectives. This is the collective I built out when writing my book on the Antinet, on Zettelkasten. So this goes at the very front of my section, see 42.14, right, of my Zettelkasten section, which goes right here. So whenever I'm working, this entire thing is 42.14, which is essentially my section on the Zettelkasten on the Antinet. And as I was, over the past 6 months, doing research and researching this book, I would come across, ideas and concepts and, collectives, essentially, to parts of, it's almost like a unofficial table of contents that's completely out of order, to main ideas that you come across. Like here's like definition of a Zettelkasten, Zettelkasten numbering schemes, neuro-imprinted Luhmann examples. Like neuro-imprinted means handwritten. You write by hand to neuro-imprint an idea on your mind. And those are my own neuro-imprinted examples of Luhmann's actual notes, right? So possible cognitive biases plaguing the study of Luhmann's Zettelkasten, all of these things, right? So I have 8, okay, over the course of 6 months, right? Register an index. And how I'm building this out is I'm doing a lot of reading and research, from those books. And then they are surfacing ideas. And when they continue to come up over and over and over again, like the writing by hand idea, the power of writing by hand, and the heterogeneous relations, which Luhmann talks about, and that kept coming up. Randomness, he kept talking about, that kept coming up. This is a big one, is the communication personality of your second mind, like the ghosts, the communication of past self, right? This is, in doing all this, it just kept coming up over and over, and so I'm like building organically and allowing this research and these ideas to emerge instead of me trying to essentially force it and create a table of contents from the get-go. I'm just creating like this random bucket, this collective of ideas with all the links and subcategories. Now, this is good, okay? But the biggest problem with it is that it is emergent and organic. It needs to be essentially structured, simplified, categorized in order to make it accessible to you, an audience. You don't want to read something that's just in note form, that's just all over the place. This is kind of like spaghetti mode if you read it chronologically. So what I have done is I sat down, put this over here, and I took out a stack of blank 3x5 note cards. And what I started to do was I would go just one by one, and I would write, for instance, Zettelkasten, definition of a Zettelkasten. Like, what is Zettelkasten? What is an Antinet? I wrote it on one card, put it over here, and then I did this to every single entry, and then grouped them if I saw patterns, and created cards for each and every single one. What I then did after I had a bunch of cards is, well, I did this. I then laid it out into something that is manageable, structured, and is basically going to form the basis and outline of my book. So, for instance, the top left, I have the why. What's the point? Like, why a book on Zettelkasten? The myths of Zettelkasten, reliable sources of Zettelkasten content, unreliable sources, confusing new people. Like, who are these? There's a lot of regurgitated bad material out there, and why does this actually get essentially propagated? The concept of highlighting, like some authors are even recommending highlighting books these days as a Zettelkasten technique and tactic, which Luhmann explicitly never did. There's Niklas Luhmann, his achievements, the man, the troll. He was a troll. There's Luhmann the Nazi, which a lot of people don't know about. There's the myths of Zettelkasten, the main. It takes years, just a ton of this stuff. So, and here's another section on notes. Why notes? What is a note? Metaphors for it. What is an Antinet over here? Knowledge development, all of this stuff. Here's like the appendix over here. So this whole thing, this structured thing, it did not start like this, right? It started in a emergent, loose, slowly 6 months of just creating an index, right? Having it emerge over time and seeing themes, and some themes die off, some themes are good, and it results in this. And now all that's left to do is to write the book. And they may sound intimidating, but honestly, it's really not. And here's why. So when I want to write the section on notes, all I do is pull up notes. Why notes? Why is it important? And boom. All it does is reference me to different sections in my own Antinet. So 4214/-1/0/2. I go there, pull out that section, and there's a ton of good research material and my own thoughts, reflections, observations from other literature on that section. All I have to do is take those notes. So, for instance, on this notes, what to do is take this chunk, right? Head over to my computer, go through it, sit down, write. And I already have the gist of it. I already have some groundbreaking ideas that essentially emerged and came from, 6 months of reading, and isn't trying to be crammed into, some short section. I'm not having to reinvent the wheel when I sit down. I've got about 6 months, or, perhaps even longer. You could have 3 years of information and content, in these notes, and you just start writing. So anyway, hope that gives someone some ideas on how this whole process works and knowledge development and writing a book and working with your own Antinet. And that's about it. Leave a comment in the section below if this helped you. Like the video, share it with a friend, subscribe to my channel, and I will start producing even more videos. Maybe I'll start even editing them or hiring an editor, and maybe I'll even get a professional camera or someone to record me so you can't see my hands freaking shaking as I'm trying to share with you this stuff and how it works. All right, peace and love, everyone. Bye.